How's it going, Scrub Gamers? Welcome back to another video here at ScrubGames, and today we've got a bit more Star Wars content for you all, so you can enjoy some more Star Wars discussion, because this is a discussion video, and more of a useful one, because I thought, considering we've got 18 leaders from the first set, being like 16 in the set, and then the two pre-release from the pre-release and starter decks being Vader and Luke, thought would be a helpful thing for people getting into the game or like learning the game a bit, to have a bit of more of an understanding of how to build them. So I've put together I've put together some understanding how to build for each lead, so a nice discussion video to go over each one and see how the best way is to build for each one. So if you're looking for a list of the lead, then unfortunately you're looking in the wrong place, because we're just not going to give out lists, we're just going to go through and understand it, so that way you kind of understand a bit more about the deck, how to build it, and then you can kind of improve yourself then, rather than just giving a list and maybe not have a great time with it. So the first one we're going over is understanding how to build Director Krennic, and we'll go through all different leads and try each different one. So before we get into the video, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. It keeps you updated with my videos as when they drop, and if you get a notification bell, you can get alerts when my videos drop and watch them either there and then or at a later time, because we're on our way to 2,000 subs after reaching 1,000 subs not too long ago, and every little bit helps, and it lets me know that you enjoy the channel and the content. So with that out of the way, let's go and have a look and understand how to build Director Krennic. So first thing we're going to do is look at the leader, because it's the best way to understand how to build a deck is looking at the leader, because that's what I can normally build it around. And the nice thing about Director Krennic, it gives you access to both the Vigilance and Villainy aspects. So aspects are like, in like heavy games, you've got like colours and you've got attributes and things like that. So if you want to simplify it, you've got blue and the dark side. So dark side and blue, or you can go with black if you wanted to, because like each the kind of colours. And the interesting thing about this game is that you got the leaders kind of like deploy, which if you've seen like other games like Dragon Ball, which I come from, you have leaders that flip over and awaken, and awaken's kind of like deploy, but then a little bit different in that it comes out for a bit, but if it's defeated, it comes back. So you got the epic action deploy amount, so he starts as a leader in leader area, so he's always in play, and it has the benefit of giving each friendly damage unit an extra +1 attack. And then you can deploy when you get to 5 more resources, being early as turn 4, or even a little bit earlier, turn 3, if you do end up ramping. And when he comes down, he gains an extra effect when he does deploy and enters the field. So when deploying means is you can basically, instead of being from the lead area, it's actually join the battle in the ground arena. And he comes in with nice stats, being 2 damage and 4 health, so quite chunky, but not a big amount of damage. But then he also retains each friendly damage unit gains extra 1 attack. So if he is damaged, he gets a little bit stronger at 3. And he does now come with a bit of healing, meaning that he's got Restore 2, which means that when he attacks, you get to heal 2 from your base each time he attacks. So he comes down quite nice, like not too late, like not the earliest, but not too late as well. So decent time to come down. Gives you a bit more healing as well, and also keeps joins the battle, puts some more damage in, and also keeps up with the extra damage. And the nice thing about his effect is that you're normally going to be trading boards, and it just means that if your opponent tries to take out one of your units but fails to take it out, but then damages it enough so it can be taken out by something else, it's then stronger, so it hits a bit harder, which is quite nice. And yeah, that's basically the main thing about this. So if you want to look at the benefit, it makes your units a bit stronger when they're damaged, and then can come down and give a bit of healing, but only when deployed, and then goes back when he's defeated. So let's have a look at the kind of aspects you can do. But before we get into that, we'll look at the aspects, but before we look into the we'll go over ratios as well. So the different kind of aspects, so as we said, he offers you the dark side and blue, meaning like Villainy and Vigilance. And considering there are 6 aspects in the game, but every character has either a villainy aspect or a heroic aspect, being like white or black, or dark side or good side, depending on their alignment. So you normally get the good side, the good guys get a heroic, the bad guys get villainy. So every leader has one of those 2, and then they either have a never trait, being either vigilance being blue, command being green, aggression being red, or cunning being yellow. They each have different ways to play. Like vigilance is blue is all about like controlling, healing, things like that. You got green, which is command, which is all about like ramping and like control, and control in terms of like damage, not damage, more like playing big things out, and like it's got a mix of each one. And like probably like a big thing about green along with ramp is more like ambushing. Then you got aggression, which is more like an aggressive strategy, not to like being aggro. That's a different kind of thing. But aggression is more about like being aggressive with damage, like heavy on attacks, pushing damage on things, on bases or on units. And then we got Cunning, which is more control aspect, which if you've played Dragon Ball is like kind of associated with yellow. Is that more like keeping things down? It hasn't got much removal, but it's got like more like annoying things to keep control of the game and kind of like bounce things back to hand to get them off the board to control the aspect, like the field, or even like keep things locked down. So there's different ones. You get the aspect, you get the combination of it. So with the a lead, you can also have a base, which is how you normally win the game by doing damage to a base to do enough damage to the base to reach 0, and then win the game. And with the bases, they have one aspect on. So combined with your leader and the base, you have a difference. You have a access to 3 aspects. You can either make them all different ones. So you can have with your lead, like being Krennic, you can have access to dark side and blue, and then you can either have access to more blue, so that give you access to double aspect cards. You can have blue, have additional green from your base to have access to the command cards. Red with a base access to aggression cards, and then yellow to have access on your base to cunning cards. So you get access to 3 ones. It depends which ones. You got access to kind of like 4 different combinations, which are quite nice. So you can either have access to just blue or different ones. So the benefit of these is normally that if you go double blue, you get access to some really strong cards that have a double blue aspect. So having double blue on them, but you get locked out of have a less card pool because you've got less access to another color. Whereas the other ones don't give you access to those double ones without the asset penalty, but give you access to 2 like extra color. And if you're wondering what the aspect penalty is, that basically means if you try to play a card that doesn't have has aspects that don't match any on your leader or base, you have to pay an extra 2 resources as the cost for that card. So if you have if you have Krennic being black blue and have a command base being green, and you want to play a red heroic heroic, so white or yellow card, you have to pay an extra 2 for that. So if you then play a card that's both like just aggression, you have to pay an extra 2 resources on top of what the card costs. If you want to play a card that's both aggression and heroic, be red and white, you have to pay an extra 4 because you have to pay 2 for every aspect it doesn't match. So you have to be wary about that. You can play anything you want, just have to be wary about the asset penalty if any of your cards have aspects that don't match. Which is a nice reason why you can add a base with different aspects or keep it double. Now before we go into deck building, I'll go over ratios, because you can play a maximum of 3 copies of any card. So you can play either 3 copies of card, 2 copies of card, or 1 copy of card, or not play the card at all. And you got to think about like what are the benefits of the ratios. Well, if you play 3 copies of card, that's the maximum you can play, and it's normally on cards that you want to see either multiples or like kind of see it as early as possible. So like with Inferno 4 is a good example. This is a very turn 1 play, because in this game you start off with 2 resources when you start, and it's a 2 cost, so it means you can play it as turn 1. Decent stats in 2-3, and it's got a nice 1 play and 1 defeated effect to kind of help you like manage your what you're going to draw into and what you see, to kind of filter through and see what you want. So cards like that you want to see 3 of, or like cards you have very useful or very crucial to your strategy, you normally have 3 cost. And then we got an example of a 2 cost being Avenger. Now this is a 2 cost is normally cards you want to see like later in the game, but don't want to see too many early, or like really see it too much early, so that way you don't get stuck with dead cards in your hand. And Avenger is a good example because the 9 cost card, I mean, it doesn't come in until you have 9 resources, which unless you do ramp, you're not going to see this till turn. They'll play this until turn 8. But they're very strong cards that you want to basically play when you get to, see and play when you get to the later game, when you can actually play bigger things. But you don't want to see them too many early to then have them just the resource and then lose out on them, because you can resource cards, but you don't get access to them anymore because you've lost them because they're in your energy technically. So things like Avenger, like later game plays, you want to have it too, so you can like see them later game, but not see them too much on the early game. And then 1 copy is more like your tech cards, like Delmico here, where cards that aren't going to be crucial to a strategy, not going to be the best, but can be useful in some situations, like cards you normally side deck, or things you want on main deck, so you've got access to game 1. Like for Delmico here, he's got decent stats, decent cost, but then his effect is to make each event your opponent plays cost 1 more, which might not be crucial, because you might have decks where they don't play any events, or don't have an event, so it's kind of useless. You might have to resource, but then this would be a card that maybe in a certain for game 1 against certain decks you might want to play. So you play 1 off, so if you see it, is good, you got it there, and if you don't see it, you don't really care. Like if it was against a deck that you need it against, you draw it, you got it. If you don't draw it, that's too bad. And if you play against a deck that doesn't need it, and you've got it in your deck for game 1 against a deck that you do, you either don't see it, you don't care, or you see it and then you charge it. Easy as that. So this kind of understanding about the ratios, about what cards you want to kind of see it 3 of, 2 of, or 1 of. Hopefully that helps a little bit when it comes to deck building. So we'll start off with the aspects and go over the double aspect ones. So each aspect so far in the set has access to 3 different bases. So they have 2 vanilla bases that have the maximum HP so far, being 30 HP, and you have 1 rare base in each aspect. And for blue, the one for that is Security Complex, and all the rare bases have less HP, so less health than the normal bases, being 25 instead of 30. But the loss of that HP means they also have like an epic action, meaning epic action you can use once per game. That could be quite great. And for Security Complex, the epic action is give a shield token to a non-leader unit. You can give that protection. A shield token basically means a shield you can put on a unit, so when it would take damage, you take the shield off instead of taking a damage. So it kind of protects it by damage once at all. So it could be a really nice handy one to kind of put like a shield early on something you want that you play in the beginning of the game, so that way you give it a protection, make it last longer, or you can save it for when you get a later game and you play something big that you want to kind of keep out that you don't want to take damage on, or like protect it a little bit easier, make it survive a little bit longer by giving a shield onto them. Now remember, like all these effects also don't really interact with leaders. I mean, you can don't anything that gives a benefit to something doesn't give it to a leader. It's kind of make it a bit fairer in that aspect. Now, having a double aspect means you don't get access to a never color, so you have a lot left of the card pool, especially with set 1, by not having access to a never color, but you still have access to all cards in that color, being blue. But as well as that, you get access to the few cards you have that are double aspects in that color. So every aspect has 3 cards in their aspect that have the double aspect, being like double blue, double green, and things like that. And for blue, you got these 3 cards that have double blue, being Bendu, being a very strong ground unit. You have Protector, being a very cool upgrade, and Vigilance, being a very good event. Now, every color has a event that's a double aspect, like given the name of their aspect. So Vigilance for blue, Command for green, Aggression for red, and then Cunning for yellow. And they all have the same thing where they cost 4, have the double aspect, and then allow you to choose 2 in any order of 4 different options. And we'll see those as we go through each of the videos of the leaders to see what the double aspect gives to this. But for this one, you get Bendu being a very big ground unit with Sentinel that allows you to, when attacking, to make the bringing things cheaper that aren't heroic or villainy. Could be useful. Very late game one, decent stats as well. You got Protector, allowing you to give any unit a Sentinel, meaning your opponent has to go through that unit in that arena, so like space or ground. They have to go for that unit before they can go and try and attack your base or whatever units in that arena. And also does give 1/1 stats, which is quite decent. And Vigilance is a really nice one, giving you very good options. So the options you either be you mill 6 cards on top, you discard 6 cards from the opponent's deck. I mean, you can give an option to mill, which isn't great in this game because mill doesn't auto win like the other ones. It just means that when your opponent has no cards in their deck, they take every time they would try to draw a card, they take 3 damage to their base for each one. So when you get to decking them out, you still got to go through to try and win by doing damage to their base. So mill isn't as great an alternative win in this game as in others. So it's not the best, but you have an option. Or you get a heal 5 from base, meaning you can last longer and you can have take more hits to your base. Defeat a unit with 3 or less remaining HP, meaning you can either get some removal, which is quite nice, or give a shield token to a unit, giving that protection once in the form of a shield. So that's what you get access to. So you get access to these 3 very strong cards, but you lose access to another color. I mean, you have a limited card pool, especially for set 1, but in future sets, they could be more beneficial. But so this isn't the best to go with Krennic because you have less options, and these aren't really for this leader anyway, aren't the best over some of the other colors, but it's just an option I thought I'd put in there for every single one so you can kind of see what you have access to. Then we have Command being one of the more popular colors to add with it, one of the strongest base and more popular base used in the game. Now, same with all the other colors, you've got 2 vanilla bases at 30k, but you have a rare base that have an epic action. That stands at 25 health as well. And the epic action for this one is it allows you to play a unit of 6 cost or less, but you have to pay the cost for that card. Remember, you don't play the card for free unless it specifically says. So you still have to pay the cost for the card you play off this effect. You don't get to play a 6 cost or less for free. But then you do get to give it the benefit of thinking of this, which you might be thinking, if I can sort of pay the cost, what's the benefit of it? Well, the benefit is that you get to give it Ambush. And Ambush is a skill that normally when you play a card, it comes in rested, so it can't attack at all in that turn. But Ambush is a skill that allows you to come in, bring the card in active mode, and then attack in every unit for the turn. So you can't attack a base with Ambush, but you can attack in every unit. I mean, you can like ambush things and take it out before it even gets to do anything. So if your opponent plays something, you can then bring in something with Ambush and take that card out before it even gets to do whatever it wants to do in the next turn. And having access to this gives you some really good ones, really good cards, and you've got some very strong cards in the dark side of Command as well. So we're going to go over both the dark side and the normal side of each aspect. That's not the same as the leader, so you kind of see what you got. So you've got like a ramp card in Super Laser Technician, a nice like unit that can ramp, and it's got the benefit outside of everyone's coming active, so you can use it straight away. And the benefit of this is that green has 3 different cards to ramp. You have Super Laser Technician, you have one that's just normal green, and you have one that's the double green part of the command event that's double green. So you don't really want to use that because you have to pay the extra 2 for it, so you're paying 6 for it. But then you do have access still to 2 good ramp cards to make you get to your later turns, so you can get playing your bigger things out. Because when you get to the bigger things, you have things like Darth Vader here being one of the best legendaries in the game, most expensive cards in the game so far, which has ambush, very good stats, and then plays out more things when it comes down. You have Relentless here being a big ship with very good stats. That makes it so each time your opponent, the first time your opponent plays an event during each turn, it has no skill, so it basically does nothing. And you have Devastator being a very big, like probably one of the biggest units with the biggest stats. That comes down, has Sentinel protect your base and other units in the space arena from being attacked. Has Overwhelm, so it does piercing if the damage exceeds the health of the card you're attacking, and can basically remove anything on play because it deals damage on play to equal to the number of resources you have, which will be 10 at least. And you have access to one of the best events in the game, be it Overwhelm Mirage, which is, even though it's class 5, allows you to give extra 2/2 to the stats of a card, making them stronger and bulkier, and then deal damage equal to that card's now attack, being +2 higher, as damage across your opponent's board, however you like. So very strong cards, very nice options, one of the most popular ones with Krennic as well. And in just the command side, you've got some very good units. You've got like Consortium Star Viper, being a very good space unit that, while you got the initiative, meaning like the first plays for the turn, you can give a bit of heal and restore 2, meaning when he attacks, it heals 2 from your base. You got Steadfast Battalion being a very good card to go with Energy Conversion Lab as a way to kind of like take out leaders before just as they deploy. So leaders that don't deploy too late in the game normally have up to like potentially 7 health. And Steadfast Battalion is, while you got Krennic out, allows you to have a way to like instantly take out your opponent's leader as soon as they deploy. Because when you deploy a leader, it takes 1 action, because you go back and forth with your actions on the turn, to play the leader out, and then you've got another action to then attack with it. So once your opponent deploys a leader, if you've got your leader out, you can then basically just use the ambush on Energy Conversion Lab, play us out, and when he attacks, it gains extra 2/2 to any friendly unit, being itself or everyone, as long as you've got leader units. You can come down and take out a leader before it even gets to do anything, which is very, very powerful. Then you've got some good late game ones like Reinforcement Walker here, be like a big statted guy that's on player on attack. Gets to either gain your new card by just looking at the top card of your deck, either drawing that or discarding and then healing. So you either just get the draw, or you get to discard it and heal. So 1 or 2. You have a nice upgrades in like Traitors, being able to take things your opponent controls, or an extra kind of ramp card in the resupply, being something that any green deck has access to. So like being dark and dark side, and also having green gives you access to 2 of the 3 ramp cards in Super Laser Tech and resupply to kind of ramp up to your later turn quicker, to have more resources to play things out bigger, quicker. So that's the benefit of green. So green is a very popular one with Krennic and offers some very good tools, especially being a dark side one as well. Then we got aggression, so don't confuse this with aggro. Aggro is more of a strategy, being hit as hard as possible, as quick as possible to win quickly. Whereas aggression is more about like being aggressive with damage towards the base and units. Now the rare base, like it's got the same things in. It's got 2 vanilla bases, very okay, but its rare base that has the epic action is allowing you to deal 3 damage to a damaged non-leader unit. So it allows you to like finish off some non-leader units that have taken damage already, which is quite nice. Could be useful to help out. And it's got some very nice units in the dark side, being Imperial Interceptor, being a 4-cost space unit that when played deals 3 damage to a space unit, so you can take things out without even needing to attack by doing damage. And then you've got like 5th Brother and 7th Sister being very good units, come down to either 3 or 5 that have benefits in just pushing more damage, being 5th Brother, when it attacks you do damage to itself and 1 damage to a ground unit, and the damage to itself adds to Krennic to make him stronger from Krennic's effect, and also from his own effect to gain raid 1 for every damage on him, making him stronger as he takes more damage. And in 7th Sister, where it's got Saboteur, meaning it can ignore Sentinels, so even if your opponent's got Sentinel, it can protect bases and other units from being attacked. Saboteur allows you to like bypass that, ignore it, and even ignore shields on units. And she's got a nice effect that goes with that. By when she deals damage to a base, you can deal 3 damage to a ground unit from this effect. You've got Palpatine here being a very late game one that comes down with decent stats, like a big cost 8, but then when you play, you have to deal 6 damage, like almost like Overwhelm and Barrage, where you get to deal 6 damage however you want across your opponent's unit. However, this is limited to 6, whereas Omen Barrage could be like bigger depending on what you choose to give the power and then divide it across to, whereas this just deals standard 6 damage to it and also has Overwhelm. And you also get things like Short Fortress Choke, which can be cheaper, so it's normally 2 cost, but can be cheaper if you control a Force unit. Unluckily for Krennic, he's not a Force unit, so you won't get benefit from the leader just being deployed. But then this allows you to deal 5 damage to any unit that's not a vehicle, so anything that's like space or like a ground vehicle unit. But then if you do after that, your opponent gets to draw a card. So while you might take out something, your opponent gets to draw a card to kind of like compensate for the fact you just take it out with the extra event. And then from the non-dark side, the normal side, you've got some access to some nice cards. You've got like Sabing Fang Fighter, allowing you to defeat upgrades. And upgrades could be like shields or upgrade cards your opponent puts on their cards, or even on cards you put on like Entrenched and things like that. You got Patissi Insurgent being also like a wolf, being very good cheap units, being 2 cost. Either like with Patissi Insurgent, the more aggression units you have on board, then it can gain raid. So if you've got a never aggression unit on, it gains raid. Even though it only hits for 1 normally, if you've got an aggression unit, it can hit for extra 2 each time, and it is quite bulky and 4 health. And wolf being a nice one to kind of like ignore Sentinel as well, just like we saw with Seven Sister, but also be able to stop your opponent from healing the base to kind of like survive a little bit longer, because when he's attacked or when he is played or on attack, he can make it so bases can't be healed. So after he's played or attacked, neither you or your opponent can heal your heal bases, so they can't like heal their base to survive a little bit longer. Then you've got some nice events. You've got like Open Fire, which is just for free, deals 4 damage to unit, pretty decent. And Mission Briefing, allowing you to choose a player and draw 2 cards. And you'd be thinking, why would I choose a player? Well, remember, you are a player yourself, so you can always choose yourself and draw 2 cards. Remember, when it says choose a player, you also are an option because you are one of the 2 players in the game. Or in Twin Suns, you're one of the 4 players. So that's aggression, more being like aggressive with damage and like just put damage on base and boards, things like that. So that's an option you can take. And the last one we got is Cunning. So Cunning is more of a control color where aspect where it's not really like it's not got much removal, but it's got a lot of control, being like lock things down, bounce things out of the way, just control the board in a very annoying way. And its rare base probably isn't the best one, but it's an option. And its epic action on its rare base is to give a non-leader unit -4 attack for the phase, meaning that you can give a -4 attack, so it doesn't hit as hard or doesn't hit at all, because it can put it down to 0. And means it's going to be easier for making it so your opponent can't take something out with one of the units that might be quite big, or making taking something out taking less damage back, which is quite cool. Then you've got some very good units in like Cartel Spacer and like 7th Fleet Defender being very good space units. Cartel Spacer being like lock things down when it comes down, as long as you've got ever cunning units. And 7th Fleet Defender being a good started one that comes out with shielded, meaning it enters play with a shield, so it can be protected from damage once while it's got the shield. And then you have like good like ground units as well, like Boba Fett being like the 2nd most expensive and popular and strongest legionary in the game, being a very good one for its cost, being 3/5. And then if things have been in for at least a turn and are rested, which you can do very well with yellow and cunning, you can do like more damage to it, being able to take out bigger things like Boba can do. And you got Bosk being a very good ambush unit that has a benefit of the many events you can play in cunning. Being anytime you play an event, you deal extra 2 damage to a unit, which is quite cool. And also has ambush that can come in like take things out before they even get started. You also have some very good events like we're speaking of as well, being like No Good Me Dead. And with how the turns progress in Star Wars, is that normally you don't have like your charge phase where you like set up your energy, like add to your energy and things like that, or like charge a land or things like that. You don't have it in normal games. You have like the charge phase and you have the action phase. In this game, you have the action phase first, where you do all your things like play units, deploy leader, play events and things like that. And at the end of the turn, that's when you do your draw, charge, and untap. So with how it works for this, we can't really do this round. I mean, like you have your like action phase, then your like charge phase again, then you start the next turn. So in this one, this card can exhaust the unit and prevent it from being used that turn and the next turn as well, which is really good. And for just normal cunning units, you've got access to some really good ones as well. You got Greedo and being a very good ground unit, being like very cheap and very fragile, but then when defeated, you can discard the top card of your deck. And if it's an event, which you got very well, if it's not a unit, meaning it's either an upgrade or an event, you can deal an extra 2 damage to a ground unit, which is pretty cool. You've got some good spaceship or space units, being like Outer Rim Headhunter and Strafing Gunship. Outer Rim Headhunter being a good one. The longer that Krennic's on the board deployed, the more benefit you can get out of it, because his attack is when it's on attack is when you attack. If you control a leader unit, you can exhaust a non-leader unit. So you can like, as long as Krennic's on the field while this is on play, you can then rest things down every time it swings, and it gets raid 1, meaning it does more damage when it attacks, meaning it can do extra 1. And then you get access to Strafing Gunship, being a very unique space unit. Because normally with units, you get to, only ground units can attack ground units, and only space units can attack space units. But Strafing Gunship kind of like bypasses that and breaks the rule, because it's got an effect where it can attack units in the ground arena. And while it is attacking units in the ground arena, the defender, so whatever it's attacking, does 2 damage less back. So I mean, you can attack a ground unit, and it'll do 2 less damage back. So if you're attacking something that does like 2 damage, it doesn't do any damage because it's then gone down to 0 when it's retaliating against the gunship. So you get access to very unique units. That pretty decent unit being 4 and a free 4. But you get access to some really cool and unique units in Cunning, and also you get access to some very good events as well. So you got things like Waylay, which is for free. You can bounce anything back to your opponent's hand, or bounce any non-leader units to his hand, be yours or your opponent's. And like if your opponent spends like eight resources to bring out a big thing, it comes in rest mode, so it can't attack unless it's got a thing that allows it, or any abilities to allow it to ready or anything like that. And they spent 8, which probably most of their turn doing that, and you just bounce it back to hand for free resources, meaning they wasted their turn playing something that then gets bounced back to their hand. We have to spend most of their turn next turn playing it out again, while you still got more resources probably at the same time to then play more things and kind of cause more havoc. And you even got things like Change of Heart being a very expensive event at 6, but it's really nice in that you get to take control of any non-leader unit, and then at the end of the turn you get to give it back to your opponent. So you get to steal anything your opponent has. So before they can, if you've got initiative, you take something before they've got as big, before they can attack with it. So you can attack with it or make use of it in your own way. So that's some of the aspects you get for aspects you've got. So you've got access to all those different ones depending on what base you put with it. And like the most common one is command. You've got very good ones in aggression and command as well. But I think more aggression and command kind of fit well with Krennic so far. But also you've got access to things that are just villainous or heroic. So it's got access to some things that are just villainy cards, which are quite good, and more like have a influence regarding like Imperial units, because that's the bad, like Imperial's bad, Rebel's good in that kind of sense. So you get access to things like Viper Pro Droid being a good like 2-cost unit that allows you to look at your opponent's hand, kind of see like hand knowledge is quite key. So seeing what cards your opponent has in your hand, what they could potentially play for the next turn and stuff like that is quite nice. You've got a Cell Block Guard being a very good stat, and like General Veers as well, being 2 good ground units. Good stats for him being 3 costs with 3 free stats, while Cell Block Guard gives Sentinel, means protecting your base and other units in the ground arena. Veers allows you to give all your other Imperial units, being like mainly dark units, or dark side units, an extra 1/1 on their stats, which is cool. So like a kind of symphony. And then you got Tie Advance being a very nice space unit, very expensive, like costly for its stats at 4. But when it comes in, it gives 2 experience tokens to a friendly Imperial unit, and the experience tokens essentially boost the card. So it gives an extra for each experience token on a card. That card gains an extra 1/1 to its stats, so extra 1 damage, 1 health. So you can give it 2 to a friendly one. You can't give it to itself, so it has to be matched with something else that's already on board. But you can make something a little bit stronger with it, which is cool. Now you might be thinking, we've gone over like the double aspect and the other aspects, but what does it get in its own aspects, being blue-black? Well, let's have a look. You've got some really nice cheaper units for blue-black, so pretty nice units here that kind of go well with Krennic, being like more the damage to get an extra 1. So you've got Scout Pipe Pursuer, which already has grit on its card. A grit being a ability which gives you an extra damage for every extra power for every damage on you. So each damage you take, you get an extra 1 stronger. So you take 2 damage, you're 2 stronger. And then put that in with Krennic as well to give you an extra 1 for every time if you're damaged. I mean, you can rank up Scout Bite Pursuer to be quite strong for a cheap unit. And you got Death Trooper as well as a way to trigger Krennic's effect and things like Grit. But when it played, you can deal 2 damage to a friendly ground unit and then 2 damage to an enemy ground unit. So it could be itself, and then deal 2 damage to a ground unit, because it maybe finish things off and just make your things a little bit stronger. And you got a good space unit in like Inferno 4, being one that's early to play, great effect, great stats, and even Power Dark Side being good removal. This one's really nice that it has less of a benefit the more things you put on its board, but the less things you got on the board, meaning the worse options they have in terms of what they want to get rid of. Because it's a very nice card where your opponent has to choose a unit you control and defeat that unit. So the more they have, the more options they have to kind of get rid of the weakest one. But if they got less options at one, they're forced to just get rid of it or like make a hard decision. And then for the later game in his combination is you got some good removal in blue, especially in the dark side of blue as well. You got access to, just from blue, Takedown and Vanquish being very good events that allow you to take out units. Like Takedown is a 4-cost event that allows you KO anything that's 5 or less remaining HP. So you can either damage things that are outside with like attacks that are higher than 5 HP and then use this to finish them off, or use Vanquish that can KO any unit that's not a leader. but it does cost 5, so it's a bit costly, but it can take out anything that's not a leader. Then you have removal and things like Count Dooku for the ground arena, and Avenger for the space arena. So Count Dooku gets to choose actually what it picks, but it could only hit things and KO things that have 4 less remaining HP. But it does have a hefty cost at 7, and he hasn't got the best stats with it, but it does come in shielded. And Avenger, which is a very big unit at 9 with very good stats, and it does get removal, which is when it's on played and when it attacks, but you don't get to choose. You have to make your opponent gets to choose with it to see what they pick on. So just like with just the same with the more units they have, the more options they have to get rid of the weakest thing. But the less units they have, the more they're forced to get rid of things they might not want to get rid of. But unlike Power of the Dark Side, it doesn't select leaders. So if they got just a leader, this does nothing. But if they got anything that's not the leader, they have to sack off something. And then you also get access to one of the best events in the game, like just board wipe. And if you've ever played Yu-Gi-Oh! And played Dark Hall, this is exactly it. Like it does is costly an 8, but Super Laser Blast gets you wipe the entire board, yours and your opponent's, and just basically wipe the slates clean. So that is what you basically have access to for this leader in kind of different aspects. So the main ones that people have been playing most of the time has been aggression with Krennic for like the more damage, because then the damage adds to it. It's kind of synchronized with effect to kind of increase the power of your units thanks to its effect of anything that's damaged gets an extra +1 attack. And command being a very good way to ramp up the placement of the better units that you get from the that you benefit from the dark side. The dark side has a lot of good expensive cards, and command being having the ramp, being able to give you more resources, is a good way to play those quicker, so you can kind of like take control the game like the Empire wants to do. So hopefully that's been helpful, and hopefully you to figure out if you want to play Krennic, because Krennic is a very good lead, very good combination, very nice effects, and if you're interested in playing him and have seen Rogue One and enjoy it, then hopefully this has helped you out to decide how you're going to build it and helped you understand how to build Krennic. So that is it for me today. Thank you for watching. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and look out for the next one where we go over Item Verso and understanding how to build Iden. So bye for now.